Hello and welcome to another edition of the Eternal Journey and the Resolves, and this is a newest edition in the New Player Series. And the New Player Series is where we're going to take a look at a deck list that's going to be able to grow with you. So first off, we'll take a look at the beginner list, what you should perhaps be able to create when you're first starting, and then we'll show an upgraded version, so some slots that you can upgrade, and then finally a completed version where it's probably taken about as far as you can. And I found that format seems to work for a lot of people because it sort of goes with them through the journey as they start as a new player. So today we've got a spicy one, and this is a deck that's built around a card called Haunting Scream. What Haunting Scream does is it's going to play a unit from your void, and that unit will get charged and flying, and you sacrifice that unit at the end of turn. So what we want here is a bunch of units that do a little bit of something when they hit the player. So we've got the All-Star Gorgon Fanatic, and what Gorgon Fanatic does is when that hits the player, you sacrifice it, you draw 3 cards, and you get to gain 3 life. So it's reasonably good in racing situations as well as just being able to keep you ahead on cards all the time. And we've also got the Direwood Beastcaller, which when that infiltrates, that's going to play 2 5/5 beasts, and all the time it's going to be very difficult for your opponents to deal with if they're not playing Harsh Rule. And this is generally the one that you're going to go for if you're in a beatdown matchup, as it's very difficult for anyone who's trying to beat you down to actually get past the set of 5/5s. We do also have a little bit of a combo here with the Haunting Scream, in that the units, once they've been Haunted Scream, they have charge and flying for the rest of the game. So if you Dark Return them, you get to bring them back, and they will continue to be some chargy beaters. So you should be able to just keep recurring this sort of abilities. So as a budget concession, we have got the left-right Ranger in here, but we've got a couple of different pieces that we could have. I do like the left-right Ranger early on because it can just become a beater. If you're on the play with this, it's going to just become a 4/4, and in like the bronze levels of the game, it's going to be quite difficult for your opponents to sort of answer just this huge beater. So let's have a look at some of the other options you could select. So we've got the Twilight Raptor, which is a pretty nice tempo unit, just a 2/2 flyer for 1. You'll notice that it does cost 2 influence, so it needs a Primal and a Shadow in play. You can play this on turn 1 if you have played a Seat of Cunning. So that'll give you both the influences required, and you should just be able to play it out. So this was in the really early versions of Scream, but I think you could also be playing the Gorgon Swiftblade, which we'll take a look at. And this is another Gorgon, so it's on theme with the Gorgon Fanatic. But once this infiltrates, this is going to get deadly in quick draw, and it's very sticky as a unit because it is a 2/3. And once you've infiltrated it once, it is going to be pretty difficult to deal with because it will have Deadly, which is really good at defending with, as well as Deadly and Quick Draw, which means that you can attack with it really well as well. I do, however, like the left-right Ranger a little bit more, as this will just get progressively bigger. Of course, Infiltrate is just a one-shot effect, but if this dies, you've infiltrated it and you get to Dark Return or Haunted Scream again, it's just going to get progressively bigger each time it hits the opponent. And once you've Haunted Screamed this, you're going to have like a 4/4 with charge and flying. Every time you bring it back, it's just going to be more and more of a dragon. It's just be able to close the game out really quickly. So in the deck as well, we've got a good number of ways of just getting through and getting those infiltrate triggers off. So we've got the Levitate here, which does double duty really, because for the most part it's going to be able to help our units that don't already have flying. It's going to gain them flying so they're able to jump over whatever your opponent is intended on blocking with, and you should be able to get those infiltrates in. As well as if your opponent's playing something with Aegis, you can use the Levitate to pop that Aegis. You still get to draw a card, and then you get to follow up with something like a Permafrost or an Annihilate just to be able to remove that blocker and get in there. We've also got the Minotaur Lighthoof, which is a card I really like. This is also in the Argoport deck that we looked at first, but what this does is, as well as being able to Haunted Scream it, is you play this and this is going to give another unit of your choice unblockable this turn. So this is a really great curve. If you've just like, on turn 3 played a Direwood Beastcaller and your opponent's just going like, oh whatever, don't need to kill it, I can just literally block it with the world. And then you follow it up with Minotaur Lighthoof, you get to attack in, get those beasts, and you just feel like you're in a really great spot. You've now got like 14 power of beasts in play really, with the Minotaur Lighthoof included. So I do really like the Minotaur Lighthoof for that reason. You can of course also scream this back, so if you've had this dealt with or discarded it at some point in the game, you should be able to pop it back and just get a bunch of damage out of nowhere, because you'll have a flying Minotaur Lighthoof and also an other unblockable unit. So the rares in this deck, we are only playing 8, and this is the Direwood Beastcaller, which is a really powerful effect. This is quite a niche card. It generally does only play in the sort of Haunted Scream Infiltrate decks, so it's not as much a staple as some of the other cards that we've looked at in other decks, but I think this is really powerful, and this brings you well on the way to being able to play quite a lot of decks, because the Scream archetype branches out into not only just the Feln one we've got here, but we can have Feln where they also play fire for cards like Torch and Combustor and Grending Drone. We've also got the Feln decks with Justice, where they get to play Svecha, which is a promo card, as well as cards like Slay and Stonepowered Alchemist, which is also pretty good just to keep recurring, because that's a lot of reach in a deck. Direwolf Beastcaller is probably pretty important in trying to build this style of deck. You can cut down on this if you really like, but I think it's worth the craft. Also got the Nocturnal Observer here, which is pretty cool in this deck, because what Nocturnal Observer allows you to do is, when you play Nocturnal Observer, she's going to make it become nightfall, and during night, at the beginning of each player's turn, they draw a card and they lose life, but whilst it's nightfall, you can exhaust the Nocturnal Observer to draw a card and then discard a card. And we don't really mind discarding cards, well, specifically units, because we do have the Dark Return and the Haunting Scream packages here. This deck isn't overly tuned, but I think it's definitely quite powerful, and we do have a lot of tools. So if we're playing against like really big mid-range decks, something like that, we've still got the Madness package here, so we can, for 5 power, we can Madness and then devour one of our opponent's units. And then of course, that is going into our Void, so not only we draw cards, but we get to Dark Return it back, or if it was worth Screaming, we could even Haunting Scream it back. This deck should overall be pretty well for you as you're starting to play, and if you played games like Magic, this is sort of like a combination between like a Delver deck and a Aristocrats deck, where you're sort of playing a lot with the graveyard and sacrificing, as well as just having really efficient beaters and just a lot of tempo in this deck. Okay, so let's look at where we could be like in a couple of weeks' time, where we've upgraded it a little bit. Okay, so maybe I've upgraded this version a little bit too much, but you can sort of see where we're going here. So what we've done is we've added places of a couple of reds. So we've got the Crest of According. This is just going to make the power base a lot better and a lot cleaner, as well as really helping you to sort of manipulate the top of your deck and just have much more smoother of a draw. We've also included Tog of Ice Cap Trader, and we do discard and draw a lot of cards. We have a lot of cards in our Void, so it's fairly easy to get Torgov into a huge size here, because when you've got 10 or more cards in the Void, Torgov will become a 7/8, and that's just a huge body. As well as just like you can Haunting Scream this back because it only costs 4, and just out of nowhere, just like 7 you in the face to the opponent, and often they're dead. But Torgov is in here for another reason, because when Torgov hits the enemy player, you get to draw a card and then discard a card. And this will help you to smooth out your draws, as well as having like synergy with cards like the Dark Return and the Haunting Scream. And we've also, the final rare we've included is the Mirror's Nightshade, and this is a card that I really like. It's got a really cool effect. So Mirror's Nightshade is a 3/2 for 2 that gets +1/+1 when the enemy is cursed, and currently we've only got one curse, which is the Permafrost, and Permafrost is an excellent answer to a lot of opposing threats, especially like in the mirror. If you're playing against someone who wants to play with the Void, their unit can't attack or block, but it's also not in the Void, so they're not able to recur it. But Mirror's got another ability, which is pay 5 to play Nyctophobia on the enemy player, and what that is a sort of curse for the player, and whenever there is Nightfall, it deals an additional 1 damage to the opponent. So first time you activate this, it's going to, Nightfall will then deal 2 damage, and the third time, so say you get to recur this Nightshade and ultimate again, it's going to deal 3 damage, and it's very easy to see how that can sort of kill the opponent, or just drain them out whilst you're sort of spinning your wheels and sort of getting some value off all the card draw of the Gorgon Fanatics and these Strategize. And what the Mirror's Nightshade does as well is it leans a little bit more into this Nightfall theme that we've got, because we have a bit of a sub-theme here for Nightfall, with the Mirror's Nightshades, the Nocturnal Observer, and the Amethyst Waystones over here. And you'll see in the completed version what that's all about, because that's going to be leading to the legendary that's in that deck. But of course, I think we should probably talk about like an order of crafting, and I think for the most part you probably want to get the crests first, just because that's going to make your games a lot more consistent, and then I think I'd work on getting the Tog of Ice Cap Traders in there, and then I think after that is where I'd perhaps work on the Mirror's Nightshade. Because I really like the Mirror's Nightshade, but it is a little bit niche, though hopefully we'll get a little bit more Unseen and Nightfall support in set 4, and we'll be able to play with this card a little bit more. But a 4/3 for 2 when your opponent's got a Permafrosted unit is really nice stats, and it's just able to keep getting that sort of aggressive strategy over. Okay, so let's take a look at the completed list here. So this is the completed list, and this is one I took from the Eternal Warcry archives, and I think this deck's actually really good. It's got the Ranger of the Dustblade, which just gives you a lot more late game play, because this gives you Nightfall, but also has Lifesteal and Overwhelm, so it's really great in any sort of racing situation, and you can also just scream it back. So out of nowhere, you're going to be able to Haunting Scream this back, deal 5 damage, gain 5 life, and then if your opponent's at 6, then Nightfall will kill them. And this perhaps feels a little bit slazy as a complete version, but I felt like in the upgraded version you could sort of see what was going on and what you wanted to be included. Okay, so next up I'm going to show you one of the other varieties of this deck that you can build it towards. Okay, so this is the complete Fire Primal Shadow Scream deck. I can see this uses pretty much all of the cards that you've already will have crafted while you're going along the journey here, but it does include a little bit of a splash for the fire here, because fire gives you a couple of really cool tools. It gives you the torch, which is just a really nice interactive spell. It gives you quarry, which you do need a campaign to get, but you could easily put strategize back in here just as a for now. But it also has the grinding drone and combust. And of course, just having combust in here makes your madnesses a lot better, because now instead of having to wait for 5 to get like a real value off them where you're going to madness and devour, now you can just play like madness on 4, so you get to steal their unit and then combust it, so you're going to get to steal 2 of their units. You don't get to draw the cards like you do off the devour, but it's just a lot easier to slot in. And honestly, being on the receiving end of Madness Combust, it just feels so crushing, and it's very difficult to win from that point. One thing I do like about this deck, and this is probably going to take you a little while to craft, is that every single piece of its power does something. So we've got like the Waystones here, so the Granite Waystone gets to build you a Grenadine in hand. The Cobalt Waystone is going to give you Face Aegis, and the Amethyst Waystone is just going to continue that Nightfall. As well as like the sets of crests here, just really be able to set you up just having a much smoother draw. And just hopefully you should really be able to enact your game plan here. But overall, this is a bit of a bonus, and I wouldn't recommend perhaps building towards this. So we'll take a look at that, the complete actual Scream list that we were originally looking at, and I'll talk you through that. So back on the complete Scream list, it's very plausible this should be able to get you through to Master if that's what you want to do when you jump in at ranked. But I think this is also pretty good against like the campaign as well, because it's just doing something really powerful and off the wall. It's also worth talking about a couple of tricks you can do with the deck as well. So sometimes if you're playing against an opponent who does have silence, so they've got Desert Marshal and Valkyrie Enforcer, perhaps you don't want to hold up your Devourers, because then if they go to try and silence something like your Dour Beastcaller or your Gorgon Fanatic, you're able to devour them, which will put them in the void. You get to draw 2 cards, but it will protect them from that silence effect. And then they'll still have their Infiltrate text for it if you do want to Haunting Scream them back later. We do also have the feeding times in here, but if you're sort of getting down by Macto, Macto shouldn't be too much of an issue for you because we do have the Madness package, and Macto with the Revenge That Never Ends is generally not very good against decks with Madness in them. But if that is an issue for you, we could also just slot in the In Cold Blood. But for now, I just wanted to try and build the deck without any campaign cards, and I feel like feeding time is pretty much just as good. It's going to be really good against anyone that's trying to recur anything from the void. It's going to get rid of Dawnwalkers with Killer, as well as just being like a clean answer to Sandstorm Time. We've got like a few ways of dealing with it, but for the most part it's just going to be the Annihilates and the Madnesses, but just more ways of dealing with that card, because Sandstorm Time is a real pain as it's going to ground everything down, just stop anything from flying, and flying is one of the ways that we're going to win the game with the Haunting Screams. Okay, so thanks for watching. I've been That Resolves, and this has been the new player guide for Haunting Scream. See you around.